Hi, my name is Neb Camus Sen Atumbre, and this is the 21st video in this Black History series. This video is entitled, Which is it? The Black Plague or the White Plague? Come on, be for real. When you go back into the history of the Canaanite Caucasian and his ancestry, they really don't know where they came from. There's a huge gap in their history, and then suddenly they just acquired knowledge about science and medicine and mathematics and law, art, music, etc., where they had none. The Europeans did not step out of the Dark Ages until the Greeks began to steal or visit Egypt to steal the wisdom that the Mizraimites had recorded, to bring it back to Greece. They were living in what is called the Dark Ages, which is the time of the unknown. The Black Plague was just one of the diseases before they had leprosy, all from their lack of cleanliness, from beastly sexual acts with animals. The Black Plague, also known as the Bubonic Plague, is a primary septicemic plague in which the victim has a sudden onset of high fever and several hours later turns deep purple, often dying within the same day the symptoms first developed. The purple color which appears in the plague victim during the last hours is due to the respiratory failure, and which is where the plague, the disease, got its name. It should be called a white plague, being that it was white people who caught and spread the disease and died from it, by it in Europe. During this period of time, while inside the caves, they lost their memory. This disease, the Black Plague, actually made them go crazy because the disease attacked their brains. This means that all the knowledge that the Caucasians previously stole from Alexandria, Tamaray, Egypt, from the Islamic Moors, the Sumerians, the Akkadians, who were all Negroes, was forgotten. They totally went through an entire gap in their history where they had no idea what happened. So they began to create stories such as King Henry, King Arthur, Robin Hood, the Knights of the Round Table, the Three Musketeers, and the list goes on and on. If you ask the European and the Indo-Euro Arabs, at least the honest ones from amongst them, who were the people who brought culture and a breath of fresh air to them in the 7th century from Africa, when Europe was going through the Dark Ages, they will have to acknowledge and say it was the Nubian Moors, the Star people, the Anu people, who opened the door for civilization again, the Renaissance. The great historian George A. James even said the people of North Africa were the neighbors of the Egyptians and became the custodians of Egyptian culture, which they spread through considerable portions of Africa, Asia Minor, and Europe. During their occupation of Spain, the Moors, the Mauritanians, displayed with considerable credit the grandeur of African culture and civilization. During the Persian, Greek, and Roman invasions, large numbers of Egyptians fled not only to the desert and mountain regions, but also to the adjacent lands of Africa and Asia Minor, where they lived and secretly developed the teachings which belong to their mystery system. In the 8th century AD, Moors, natives of Mauritania in North Africa, invaded Spain and took with them Egyptian culture, which they had preserved, sacred knowledge from the ancient days, the mysteries of Egypt, which the Greeks used to call Sophia. Again, for all you doubting scholars, the late Dr. Chancellor Williams hits the nail on the head when he answers the questions regarding the Moors. Now again, just who are the Moors? The answer is easy. The original Moors, like the original Egyptians, were black Africans. As amalgamation became more and more widespread, only the Berbers, Arabs, and Kurds in the Moroccan territories were called Moors, while the darkest and blackest skinned Africans were called Blackamoors. Eventually, black was dropped from Blackamoor in North Africa and Morocco in particular. All Muslim Arabs, mixed breeds, and Berbers are readily regarded as Moors. The African blacks, having had even this name taken from them, must contend for recognition as Moors. Well, these mighty Nubian Moors did much for the then Spain. They brought in water from the mountains, and water was distributed throughout every corner and quarter of the city by means of lead pipes into brass fixtures of different shapes made of the purest gold and fine silver or plated brass as well, into vast lakes, tanks, reservoirs, aqueducts, and fountains of Grecian marble. Their houses were air conditioned both in the summer and winter, and they had bathrooms with hot and cold water. Even their streets were lit by lamp posts at night, so pedestrians can stroll along the paved streets without worrying about slipping into mud puddles and crevices. Morocco was the first of the North African states to recognize America as an independent country. In fact, when America was a newly freed nation, the Emperor of Morocco took America as an ally to protect and protected it on the waters of the Mediterranean Sea as well as the Atlantic Ocean. America did not have much to offer at this time because they were a nation in the beginning stages. Within the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1787, Article 21, made with the Emperor of Morocco, Sidi Muhammad ibn Abdullah, also known as Muhammad III, it states that Moors would be treated as equal as the citizens of the United States. When America did claim its independence from Britain, these blackamoors of America, even the ones that were kidnapped and brought here on ships, were still again protected according to the Act of 1705 AD, under the Treaty of 1787 AD between Morocco and the United States. The supreme law of the Constitution, which these politicians and talk show hosts like Kane and Hannity and Limbaugh keep hollering about, was obviously ignored when it comes down to us. George Washington was not the first president of the United States, and he was a Freemason. As a Freemason, George Washington also spoke in parables, and most of what he said had a twofold meaning. You should ask, what is the importance behind the statement that he cut down the cherry tree? In actuality, the cherry tree that he is referring to was the Moorish flag, which he tried to bury along with the identity of the history of the Moors who founded this country also. There were 14 other presidents before George Washington. They were presidents of the Continental Congress. John Hanson was the first president of the Union under the Articles of Confederation, thereby making him the first president of the United States. He was the one who appointed George Washington general in the Civil War. Truth is truth. George Washington was abducted into the Freemasonic order by Benjamin Banneker, also known as Big Ben Bay, a Moor who designed the White House in replica of the Casablanca, the White House in Morocco. Benjamin Banneker, 1731 through 1806, whose real name was Benjamin Banner, was a Moor that was born in Baltimore. He helped establish the foundation of the country. Benjamin was a mathematician. While farming, he taught himself astronomy. At age 22, he constructed a clock made entirely of wood, with each gear carved entirely by hand. In 1789, U.S. President George Washington appointed Banneker to the commission charged with planning the construction of Washington, D.C. This country was established and built by Moors, who left it in the hands of Caucasians and returned to France. That is why there are two symbols on the dollar bill. George Washington was of the order of the Whigs, and in order for him to be president, he had to be initiated into this order. Unknowingly to most, John Hanson was a Nubian, an African American. There is a bronze statue of this Nubian Moor, John Hanson, in Statuary Hall in the White House. Only the greatest Americans are placed in this hall. Not even all the former presidents have statues of themselves there. We were never slaves, because the word slaves refers to the Slavs or Slavic people who were the original slaves. If you look up the word slave according to the American Heritage Dictionary, it comes from Middle English, sclave, from Old French, esclave, from Medieval Latin, sclavus. So the word Slav or slave derived from the widespread enslavement of captured Slavs in the early Middle Ages. Okay? Now, kidnapping and torture is a serious crime universally. Maybe, just maybe, that was our reward for playing God and creating the red man. The universal law of cause and effect and the law of compensation must be fulfilled. As any concerned parents would, the Anunnaki bequeathed the best and richest part of the planet to their supreme offspring, us, until they return. Now you tell me, how would you feel if you returned from a long trip to see your house and your children desecrated in this way? Good luck to all you invaders and your offspring who are now living the lifestyle of the rich and the famous on OPP. You see, the Anunnaki are back in a huge planet-sized ship called Nibiru. Remember, no one escapes the law. R.I.P. That ends today's tape. video. We hope you learned something from this video, and we urge you to share this video and to subscribe to the only channel where you will learn true ancient Egyptian mysteries. No more lies, no more guesswork. So share, subscribe, click on the like button below. See you at the next video.